The Minnehaha Abandoned Mineland Project addressed the urgent environmental and public safety risks posed by an aged and weakening levee holding back an abandoned slurry pond. The impoundment was directly adjacent to Mud Creek, which was relocated by a mining company in the mid-1900s to construct the pond. Work to correct this potential danger required simultaneous protection of the levee during construction, actual repairs to the levee, removal and encapsulation of the slurry, and remediation of the acid mine drainage before release back into Mud Creek. As a result of some careful planning and coordination, use of emerging water control and treatment applications, and on-site innovations, this potential threat to the environment and public health and safety has been transformed into part of an otherwise pleasant and inviting landscape.
Project components key to the success of the project were the removal of 600,000 yards of slurry, 200,000 yards of gob, reconstruction of 1,000 feet of levee, and almost 30,000 tons of substrate for the bioreactor.
The levee was constructed originally, they moved Mud Creek, used that excavation material as the first portion of the slurry pond. That was the very first part of the levee. After the slurry pond became full, this is again 50 years ago, they took coarse material or gob and raised it up another 10 or 15 feet. So what we did with it was we excavated that gob down after we got the slurry moved. We excavated the gob down to the point to where we hit the original elevation of the elevation of the original creek or the original berm. That material was moved over to the coarse refuse pile for disposal, and then soil material was brought back in and raised the levee up, rebuilt that portion of the levee up to the elevation that we needed.
Yeah, I mean, while working on Mud Creek, you know, we were very careful not to go too deep, let it breach. We could have breached the levee and slurry could have went into the Mud Creek, and it would have been very difficult to stop at that time. Once we got our clearing done, we had to come in there and over excavate where the bad spots were till we got down to some good material. That was definitely some tedious work over there, some time consuming work, but something definitely needed to be done to protect the creek from the leachate of the slurry.
Then you know, moving that slurry off of there, I mean, it was, and then stacking slurry, you know, I honestly wasn't sure that it would stand up like they said, but that's, you know, engineers get paid for being engineers, but it was just an incredible process.
Most of it would come out in a very wet form. Some of it would flow out of the bed as you're going back to the pile. So we came up with a map system just on site by ourselves, and we had different zones and areas. We would work them. We'd work one zone one day, move to the next zone. We usually would let it sit for hopefully about a week, and by having the different zones, it allowed us to keep moving all week.
Once they started building that up and we got up out of that, there really wasn't much trouble. It was just a matter of, you know, that they would build a road up, start dumping, putting it around, getting it in the right contours that the plans called for, and they used GPS equipment for all of that.
The serpentine ditch was a challenge, but obviously that works out good and it looks good from an aerial photograph standpoint.
And when it started, it was very tight radius, so tight that a dozer couldn't make the proper turns as designed. So we got a GPS excavator and started cutting it with the excavator and to the contour that was desired, but the majority of it would be thrown up on a bank to dry. Then we would take a dozer to come back, push it into the piles, and then bring dirt in, back in the ditch, place it in with the excavator, and then come back and seed and straw those ditches.
Well, it was a challenge, but we like a challenge, and it was well designed and how we could approach the job. And working with the DNR, you know, we had the latitude to adapt to situations with the inspector and discuss that, and so that worked out quite well for us.
By the end of the middle of the job, we had 4 excavators and about 12 trucks running on the job site, to where we initially thought we'd have 3 to 6 trucks. So that was just more management, more trucks running around. We had trucks hauling slurry to the slurry end. We had trucks hauling coarse to the coarse pile, and we had trucks hauling substrate from the mixing area down to the wetland. So we had trucks going 3 different directions, 3 different loaders, and dozers all over the place.
People to thank or partners that had involvement in the project were numerous. First of all, it would be the Office of Surface Mining, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Peabody Coal's landowner, Indiana Geologic Survey for their data collection and hydrologic evaluation needs, the Indiana Department of Administration Public Works Division for the construction contract, and the DNR Division of Engineering.